Billionaire Elon Musk has flexed his political muscles while taking aim at the U.S. Agency for International Development. During an X Spaces discussion today, the billionaire said that President Trump agreed that the agency should be shut down. And this morning, staffers of USAID were told not to come into the agency's Washington headquarters, with yellow police tape and officers blocking the lobby. Overnight, more than 600 employees reported being locked out of computer systems. In the 2 weeks Trump has been in office, the war against USAID has already seen thousands of employees laid off and programs shut down. Joining me now is the Hill's national political reporter, Julia Manchester. Julia, thank you so much for joining us. The agency's website shut down, as we mentioned. Employees ordered not to show up to work. Elon Musk, for his part, has said that USAID is a criminal organization that should be shut down. What's at stake here?
Yeah, so it's interesting because over the weekend we heard Elon Musk sort of previewing how he believes USAID is a failure and we could see some shutdown in the future, or he was saying that's what he would like to see. And he said that President Trump agreed with him. The only issue, though, is that while President Trump has really hammered USAID and has said that it's, essentially run by, people who are radical on foreign policy, we haven't seen President Trump go as far to say it should be shut down. In fact, more of the Trump administration folks we've chatted with have suggested that it would be reorganized or moved under the State Department. And we do know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has been made acting director of the agency. So going forward, though, this is a big deal because we know that, out of all the other countries in the world, the U.S. is the #1 provider of foreign aid. So that could definitely bring some major changes to recipients of foreign aid going forward.
Absolutely, with major changes. The department only has about $30 billion in annual funding, a drop in the bucket for Musk's $2 trillion in cuts he touted during the presidential campaign. But today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this to say when asked about USAID.
Yeah, there are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do, and we will continue to do. But everything they do has to be in alignment with the national interest in the foreign policy of the United States. And the attitude that USAID has adopted over the years is, no, we are independent of the national interest. We fund programs irrespective of whether it's aligned or not aligned with the foreign policy. That's ridiculous. These are taxpayer dollars. Every penny that we spend in foreign aid needs to be in furtherance and aligned with the national interest in the foreign policy of the United States.
Julia, as you mentioned, Rubio said that he is the acting director of USAID. It seems to be like it doesn't quite, it's not compatible with them completely shutting down the agency. So what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads us to believe that there's maybe different, I guess we're getting a different message from Elon Musk versus the Trump administration. Like I said, President Trump has not moved far enough to say that it should be shut down, but we are seeing a reorganization of a number of these big federal programs. You're seeing it with USAID. We saw that there was a funding freeze for USAID, but we do know that that funding freeze did not apply to life-saving programs within the agency. We're kind of seeing a similar, I don't want to say this is sort of like comparing apples and oranges, but in terms of how the U.S. government is approaching the reorganization of some of these federal programs. You see, for example, FEMA. President Trump has touted the idea of moving FEMA more to the control of the states and sort of reorganizing it that way. I think this is all a part of the broader, you could say war on the bureaucracy or dismantling of the bureaucracy from Donald Trump and by extension Elon Musk.
From USAID to FEMA and now the FBI, Trump administration going after the FBI, at least 6 senior FBI officials ordered to retire, resign, or be fired. Why are these senior leaders being targeted?
So a lot of this has to do, according to the Trump administration, those around the president, has to do with the fact that the president was going to target members of the FBI who were promoted by Christopher Wray, the former FBI director. So you have that, dynamic here at play, but you also have the Trump administration. We saw the Trump campaign tout this on the campaign trail, that they are targeting, they're essentially trying to target individuals within the FBI they believe could have taken place in what they say is a politicization of the FBI. They say that the agency is politicized and they want to remove those individuals. Now, we don't have evidence that these individuals did anything of the kind. It's getting a lot lot of pushback from a number of people, including New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who has said this is dangerous and presents a national security threat because you're removing people with institutional knowledge of the agency. So a lot of questions as to what this looks like going forward.
And related, the Justice Department also looking into potentially thousands of employees at the FBI who worked on cases related to the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol. Are we going to see a major purge following that?
If the events we've seen leading up to this, like the firing or the letting go of these other agents, or any indication, we could potentially see that. We know, like I said, the Trump administration wants to target what they say is a politicization of the FBI, so we could see some major changes ahead. This could be a part of that.
Thousands of protesters rallied in downtown LA this weekend over President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration and his aggressive deportation policy. Those protesters even taking over the 101 freeway at certain points. KTLA's Jennifer McGraw was on the ground and has the latest.
Hundreds seen taking over the freeway and marching in the streets of downtown LA, protesting President Donald Trump's policies regarding immigration and deportations.
El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Us as Latinas, Latinos, us as Hispanics, it's scary for everybody. We don't know the future.
Since his first day back in office, Trump has signed a flurry of executive orders, giving the military a greater presence at the U.S.-Mexico border and the reduction of restrictions previously levied against immigration and customs enforcement. While many immigrants fear for the deportation of families and children, the president says he's targeting dangerous and heinous individuals that the administration is removing from the American communities. But we've seen nearly 1,000 deportations daily, a fear for many.
We've seen it already a bunch of times all over, so he doesn't care. We need to be treated like humans. And, we're being treated inhumanely.
My parents came here at the age of 18, and I feel like it's only right for my siblings and I to take advantage of their struggles, and I feel like that's for everyone here too. We have a voice, and I think it's only right we use it for our parents and our grandparents.
And say they'll continue to resist deportations.
Use your voice, make a difference, y que viva la raza.
And back here with Julia. Julia, today Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made his first trip as in his position to the southern border. Tell me a little bit about what we know about his trip.
Yeah, so we know that it is as we speak, the trip is in process. He has left Washington for the southern border, and it really comes, I think, as you're seeing an increased militarization or military presence at the U.S. southern border. Normally, when we think of the situation at the southern border, we think of the Department of Homeland Security, but we're seeing President Trump involve other departments involved in this, and it shows that he's viewing this or sort of portraying this to the American people as a national security threat, essentially saying that we are a threat from a number of the people coming over the southern border when it comes to crime and national security. So Pete Hegseth's presence there, though, further solidifies the militarization, I think, of the situation at the southern border.
I want to turn a little to Vivek Ramaswamy, who said he wouldn't be serving on Elon Musk's DOGE committee, that he has his eye on the Ohio governor's mansion. How could he shake up the 26 governor's race?
Look, it's going to be such an interesting race because we're going to see sort of a tale of two Republicans running in that primary. You have a very MAGA, pro-Trump Republican like Vivek Ramaswamy, and then you have Dave Yost, the state's attorney general, who might be Trumpian, might be very conservative and hold a number of Trump's views, but he's not out there with Trump the same way Vivek Ramaswamy is. It comes after Mike DeWine. He's going to be term limited, but Mike DeWine is very much cut from a similar cloth that Dave Yost is cut from. So it's going to be interesting to see how that Trump brand survives in a red state that has gotten redder over the past number of years under Trump, with someone like Vivek Ramaswamy running.
Great insight, Julia Manchester. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Judy.
Vice President Vance visiting East Palestine today, marking the 2-year anniversary of the train derailment that led to a chemical explosion that devastated the Ohio village. News Nation's Rich McHugh is in East Palestine speaking with residents on what they're hoping to see from the Trump administration.
Hi, Judy. We're here in East Palestine, Ohio, where it's been 2 years Since the Norfolk Southern train derailed just behind me and officials burned 116,000 gallons of vinyl chloride into the sky above this town, changing it forever. Today, Vice President Vance is here touring the site with a message. We will not forget you. This community will not be left behind, and that the Trump administration is in it for the long haul in East Palestine. They said they were going to finish the cleanup and blamed the previous administration for not doing the job. They will focus on the long-term development of the community. One of the big questions on residents' minds is the Trump administration, will they declare a disaster, a federal declaration of disaster here? I asked him that very question. Take a look. In speaking with residents here over the past 2 years, one of the things that they tell us at News Nation is that they want a federal disaster declaration so that federal funds can come in so that they can get Medicare and they can get long-term health monitoring. I know the previous governor, the governor has asked for this. When I spoke with you last year, you asked President Biden to sign this. Will the Trump administration declare a disaster here so people can get these resources that they need?
Yeah, so the long-term health monitoring, by the way, is something that we're very focused on, and I'm personally very focused on. It's something my Senate office worked a great deal on, and frankly was very disappointed that the Biden administration wasn't willing to meet us halfway there. We're going to do a lot there, and I think there's a lot that could be done. On the disaster declaration, it's an interesting question because a disaster declaration may have been very helpful 18 months ago. I don't know that it's still helpful today. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the governor behind me. I'm going to talk to Lee about this, and I'm going to say, is a disaster declaration still helpful? Because if the answer is yes, then I'm going to take that message back to Washington. But the answer may well be no, right? Because we're not in the same phase of this thing now that we were 2 years ago. Thank God for that. We're going to do right by the community. That answer may not be the same as it was 18 months ago, but we're still going to work at it.
Now, residents we spoke with right after said they were comforted to hear that there was at least a conversation about long-term health monitoring, but not really thrilled at the lack of a disaster declaration. Judy?
News Nation's Rich McHugh, thank you. The city of Minneapolis has agreed to pay $600,000 to settle a lawsuit brought by a woman who says she too was a victim of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Chauvin was the officer who knelt on George Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes in May of 2020, ultimately killing Floyd. The suit alleges Chauvin knelt on the woman's back in a similar manner 4 months prior to Floyd's death. It describes the kneeling restraint as the former officer's signature pose and calling card. In a document filed in response to the complaint, Chauvin denied kneeling on her and said he believed his conduct on that day was lawful. This is just the latest in a series of suits alleging excessive force by the former Minneapolis officer. Chauvin was convicted of murdering George Floyd in 2021 and is currently serving 22.5 years in prison. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Judy Kurtz. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.